What up, y'all? Welcome back to the Hurdle Podcast. It's finally that time of the year. We're talking Bobcat Athletics, specifically men's basketball today. And I'm super excited. A lot's happened with our men's program in the year that we took off. So we're kind of going to go over a little bit of that. We're going to go over our tournament run and then the unfortunate, I want to call it rebuild, restructure that we're kind of going into this new era in phase here in Bozeman regards to basketball. But yeah, so let's just kind of hit on the season that was. Cats won the Mountain West, Big Sky, sorry, Big Sky. Got into the tournament, drew Kansas State, really took Kansas State to the brink. I was watching the game in Jackson Hole over spring break, and they narrowly lost in a game that it never felt like it was out of reach, but it also never felt like the Cats kind of had it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's the success of last year. Had a lot of dominant guys show up. A lot of new guys transferring in, like Darius Brown was a huge addition for this team. But yeah, we're kind of in this new era. So let's kind of do a timeline deal. So Montana State's former head coach, Danny Sprinkle, leaves for the Utah State University job over in Logan, Utah. 4-year, 5-year deal. He's getting paid like 4 times what he is, 5 times what he was here at Montana State. So I think everyone here in the community and us as fans, students, whatever you want to call it, we're super happy for him. He deserves it. You know, he gave 4 great years to this program as a coach and as a player. For an additional couple years. He'll definitely be one of those people that has probably his jersey or something. His name will be in the rafters of Bobcats at the Brick here once he decides he's done with coaching or whatever. His adventures bring him kind of a deal, but losing him was huge just because of what we had going on and like the vibe in Bozeman. The vim was high. And we just kind of felt like the Cats were at the right place at the right time, kind of a deal.
Yeah, I felt like we were making a lot of progress in a really short amount of time with him. And especially since we've been here, me and Logan have been here 2 years, and we've seen back-to-back Big Sky championships, back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances, and one of those being a regular Big Sky regular season championship too. And we were bringing in high recruits. We got Raequon in, who was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. We got him on the transfer from Washington. We brought in Darius Brown as a transfer, who was awesome for us this year. And it just seemed like our program was trending upwards heavily into being a program that could really dominate kind of the Big Sky for the next couple of years to come. And we were also bringing in guys from international play, like Jabril was out of London. I believe Great was too. Both of them out of England. So, and we had a connection there that could potentially is potentially just simmering down, I guess, is one way of putting it. And Sprinkle leaving hurts a lot, I think, for this program. Just with the success that we had with him, he really got his players ready to play. It's just the gist that you got with him. It was a lot of no BS. We're here to win basketball games kind of deal, and which is something I love. And him being from the program as a point guard here himself, I believe he won us a Big Sky title too. So as a point guard here out of Helena, and yeah, just what he means for this program, I totally agree with Logan. He'll have some form of number retired or just like his name, a jersey with his name on it. It'll be in the rafters, and if for some reason he doesn't, he has 2 Big Sky championships to put up there already.
Yeah, exactly. Like statue, it doesn't matter. Danny Sprinkle will, I think, always be remembered here in Bozeman. Again, we've only seen it for 2 years, or did get to see it for 2 years, and we've kind of been spoiled with athletics up here of late. And like football is most likely going to continue that, but we're going into a new era, so that happens. Obviously, assistant coaches leave. I can never remember his name, but he's the big dude, assistant head coach. He's
Ginger
from London.
beard.
He was,
Yeah.
he was here helping us do resident move-ins here over in Highlight Hall at the beginning of the school year. Really cool dude. Got to talk with him a little bit about basketball. He's a super nice guy. Danny poaches him to go to Utah State, so now Utah State's going to get the same kind of treatment we did. We had that London connection, so I think a lot of guys from over in the UK are going to probably start going to Utah State if I was a betting man, just because we've seen it firsthand here.
Yep.
And so that was kind of the start to this, let's call it avalanche or down, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, definitely.
So Danny leaves, and then immediately players start hitting the portal. I think we knew Raequon would hit the portal, Raequon Battle. We kind of expected him to. I think even if Danny was still here, just because of how well he's played these last 2 years in Bozeman, I could see him wanting to write it out. But like, also you got to strike while the iron's hot. Like, and I don't think any of us would have faulted him for that. But then losing Danny meant we lost a lot of other people, and we'll kind of just go over them here in a minute. But I think we should start with Raequon. I think he's earned that for sure. So Raequon transfers to West Virginia to the Mountaineers. That's big basketball. That's Big 12 basketball, which is loaded. And I think we both think he's going to fit in well with that system over there. And I mean, what he brought to this program, awards wise, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure Bailey will go over that here in a little bit. It's just sucks losing him, but again, it's one of those, I'm happy for him. He gets the opportunity to really show, not just on that national stage, because he's shown it back-to-back years in the tournament that he is a dog. He knows how to score. He drops 27 in the Kansas State game, pretty much kept us in that game. It sucks to see him go, but again, I kind of felt like it was coming. I just didn't expect it. Kind of a deal,
Yeah, the writing was on the wall. I think especially after the Kansas State game, because he goes big D1 instantly, goes to the University of Washington, kind of gets I guess pushed to the side, I guess you could say there. Just didn't get the minutes, right? Just didn't get the minutes, and so then you have to go out and look for new locations, right? So then he comes here to Bozeman, our freshman year, his sophomore year, and he was such a spark plug for us as our sixth man off the bench last year. He was everything you could ask for in terms of offensive production. And he kept just gaining more and more minutes throughout the year. His impact on games was wearing more and more. He makes highlight electric plays out on the fast break. He shoots the ball really well. From our guards, he was our best field goal percentage shooter this year as our number one option. He averaged 17.7 points per game. And yeah, just what he brought, he made this offense so much more dynamic than what it was. Because Montana State basketball, it was a lot of feeding Baylor, feeding Osobor in the post, and having kind of that low post, high post system that Danny loved to run. And you can't do that without shooters. And Raequon was definitely a shooter from the outside, can create his own shot off the dribble. And now that he's going to play for West Virginia, that's some legit D1 ball. Like, you're drawing Kansas 2 to 3 times a year if you play them in the tournament. You're drawing Oklahoma 2 to 3 times a year, Oklahoma State, Texas. And Texas was a huge program this year. Kansas won the national championship 2 years ago. Those are legit programs. And we're going to hope, I give him all the respect in the world. He's going to shine in West Virginia under Bob Huggins, who's one of my personal favorite coaches in all of college basketball with the stool and all that. But I think he's going to shine there just as an offensive threat. And you saw it in the Kansas State game. Like, he's going to get to play Kansas State twice a year now. And, I just think offensively, his ability to create off the dribble, get to the hole, draw fouls, draw contact, and shoot the 3 ball at the same time is really going to add another dimension to this West Virginia team coming up.
Yeah, for sure. They definitely got fans out of us. I will be tuning into West Virginia basketball for sure. And then it was kind of just a domino effect after Raequon kind of declared. Darius Brown, who we mentioned we brought in, he follows Danny to Utah State.
Yep.
He was Defensive Player of the Year for the Big Sky.
Yep.
Dog, what we needed. That was kind of the thing we were missing last year is some defense from the guards.
Mm-hmm.
Because no offense to Agent X, Xavier Bishop, but he was 5 foot nothing, and people could just blow by. Not great defensively. Bringing Darius Brown was huge. We get him for a year. Follows Danny to Utah State. I totally get it. Especially if you're going to be at a program for like only a year. The reason you're there is the coach.
Yeah.
And that's, I feel like, the reason he's following Danny. And
Yeah.
it's the same deal with Great Osobor. He's also going to Utah State to follow Danny. Another a great fit for them. It's another with the London connection also following Danny to Utah State. I feel like that was also another given that he was going to go there. And yeah, that just sucks because that's with Jabril graduating, and that was going to be our guy. Like Great Osobor was going to be our center, the starting center for the Cats. And
Yep.
we kind of lose our big men in one off season, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, and like same thing with Raequon too. Like he was gonna be he was this year too, but he was gonna be our like clear number one option. And he would have put up monster numbers, especially when we get to the new coach with the type of offense that he runs. Raequon would have just been ferocious offensively. He would have been insane. And yeah, like you said, same thing with Great. And Darius Brown hurts really bad. Because like you said, like after as Xavier Bishop was so much fun to watch. He was electric on offense. But at 5'7", 5'8", if the other team had any size at guard, they were trying to get a lot of mismatch looks into the post against him, setting screens, get the switch, get him straight into the post. You saw Texas Tech do that a lot in the NCAA tournament game, which is why we lost that game by 30 or so. And Texas Tech got off to a really hot shooting start. Instant switches, and they forced us to go zone. Same thing with Kansas State this year. They forced us to go 1-3-1 zone, and we kind of pulled a little rabbit out of the hat with that this year. Yeah, Darius this year, you could size didn't matter. At 6'6" and his strength and his aggressiveness on defense, he was a real tone setter for us this year. The Cat Grizz game comes to mind. Just making hustle plays all over the court, getting timely steals, just being a defensive menace. To Anan Moody, who was a Big Sky All-Teamer this year for U of M. So losing that is definitely going to hurt, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And he was our floor general. He averaged almost 5 assists a game this year. He shot the ball fairly efficiently. It's not like he was bad on offense or anything. He was our fourth leading scorer. But just the impact he made for us defensively this year can't be understated. And same thing with Great. Like him and Balo averaged a block a game for us. And now we're losing both guys. So our rim protection, there's going to be questions about that coming into this year. That's just what happens when you lose both of your starting centers. Like it is what it is. And while Great didn't always start because of Balo's presence there, he won Big Sky Sixth Man of the Year. So, and he was our third leading scorer. He was our most efficient scorer at 63% from the field. And you saw his length impacted games on the block. And you couldn't post us up when you had Great and Bale. You just couldn't post us up. You had to do work from the perimeter. And I think we're losing that aspect too, also going to Utah State. And they're gonna get two great defensive products there going with Danny.
Yeah, for sure. And then last one we want to touch on just a little bit. Jackson Grant, the 4-star recruit from the University of Washington, kind of giving us Raequon vibes almost. Played 2 years at UW. Gatorade Player of the Year senior year in Washington, if I'm not mistaken, right, Bailey?
Yeah, Olympia.
Yeah, averaged 23, 13, 3 blocks. He committed. through the transfer portal here to Montana State, and then the second Danny was gone, he was gone.
Well,
And
he reopened. He reopened into the portal. He hasn't
yeah,
I don't think he's gone anywhere yet. He hasn't announced him moving, so maybe he will stay. But I think the odds of that are pretty low at this point.
it's kind of like the writings on the wall. Like he was
Mhm.
going to be here for Danny.
Yep.
Danny leaves.
And then everyone follows. Like, it's just how it works in college basketball.
That's just how college sports works. You saw it
hmm
with Lincoln Riley when he went to USC. Like Caleb Williams followed. Like
Yeah, I'm Colorado with Deion Sanders.
the Deion Sanders effect. Like we were
Yep.
joking earlier. It's like, Deion like brought his guys from Jackson State. He's like, we're bringing our Louis Vuitton, and it's like, yeah, we're bringing our Patagonian Sims up here in Bozeman, Montana, because that's what we are.
Yep.
We're hikers and
Mhm.
outdoorsmen here in Montana. But enough dwelling on the past. The past is the past. We wish everyone the best. Definitely. I mean, I was already a
Absolutely.
Utah State fan coming from Utah. I mean, Utah State's 40 minutes from my house. So I'm going to be tuned into Utah State basketball a lot. Same now with West Virginia. But we have a new dynasty, legacy, whatever you want to call it, new regime coming in. We got Matt Logie. I like the name. Coming over from Point Loma, which is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Bailey, Division III.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, smaller school in California. And at first, I wasn't stoked about the hiring. Obviously, you're replacing Danny Sprinkle. I don't think anyone was going to be super hype about it, to say the least. But the more and more you look at it, I think this is such a good pickup for the Cats. I think we kind of both thought they would hire from within just to kind of keep a lot of the guys here. But I
Mhm.
think we both agreed if they were going to go outside of Bozeman, outside the program, bringing something completely different, bringing something that we didn't have last year with Danny, kind of a deal. And I think we bring that with Matt Logie, 247 and 54 at Point Loma. He was in the NCAA tournament 10 out of the 11 years that he was the coach there. And he has a rich coaching history and player history. Bailey, you want to dive into that?
Yeah, I mean, he was a big time player at Lehigh. Became an assistant coach there under that CJ McCollum team, which pulled off that 15-2 upset against Duke. That a lot of people remember. I believe that was like 2013 or something like
Yep.
that. So he was a huge part of that. Was a great player himself. He's the top free throw shooter all time for the Patriot League at almost 91% from the stripe. Hit 262 threes over the course of his career, so he's a real shooter. I think that's kind of the offense that he's going to bring here to Montana State. I think you're going to see a lot more motion, a lot more spread, maybe some smaller lineups, get some guards in there. And I don't know, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be much more up and down, controlling a much more fast tempoed offense that you saw with his teams there at Point Loma. And I think he also brings in a winning culture. Like 247 wins is something you can't deny. I don't care if it's D3. I don't care if you're coaching seventh grade AAU. Like 247 and 54 gives you better winning percentages than Coach K, gives you better winning percentages than Jim Boeheim, Bill Self, like the greatest college coaches ever. Granted, they were coaching D1, he was coaching D3, but I think there's something to be said in that, right? The
Mm-hmm.
way you can dominate a division like that at D3. So I'm really excited to see what he brings. I just think it's going to be something really fun to watch, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. And like, again, like we kind of mentioned, like we haven't seen any like bad years of basketball or bad years of football. And we're
Mhm.
not saying this is going to be a bad year. I think it's going to be a growth year, obviously. It's going to be adjusting. Like, we really haven't brought in any big commits since he was hired. But I think having that pipeline, like, it's not like a pipeline, but coming from California, he recruits in California. Like,
Yeah.
Bozeman now has a pipeline to the state of California through our basketball head coach. And I think that could prove to be huge in the next couple of years. It's just going to take time. It's a
Yeah.
process. It's all that
Even
good
Danny
stuff.
took time. Danny also took time.
Exactly, and exactly. Dan was here 4 years, and quite frankly, kind of didn't figure out until the final two.
hmm
Is a fair assessment. Like won 2 championships in the Big Sky. And I think the staff he's bringing is going to be huge. He announced a part of his staff today, so this is kind of why we're getting this video out now. Brings in the assistant head coach from U of M, so a guy that knows the Cats, a guy that knows the Grizz. That's huge. We love beating the Grizz. We do it all the time. Another assistant from Point Loma. I believe he was his assistant head coach, if I'm not mistaken. And then the big get, because of recent success, some senior assistant, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but this guy from San Diego State, and they were just in the national championship playing UConn. Like, I think the hires have been great, and now it's the point in time to watch for people coming to Montana State. I think now that the staff is set in place, you have that California pipeline, you have the pipeline to San Diego State, you have a bigger pipeline now within the Montana schools. Like, I think recruiting in the next couple of years is going to be huge for Montana State, and I think they could hit on them big.
Yeah, definitely. Like we said, everything just takes time. While me and Logan might not see it, we'll definitely be watching it. While we might not see in person here the success that this era might have within the next couple years, we're at least going to be able to see the growth that this program has. It's so hard to just be able to hit the reset button and say, hey, we're still going to be great, right? Very little teams over the course of really any history have ever done that. And just look at any sports team ever, really. And like, you can look at the Bulls, like they lose Jordan. Really hard to be a great team after you lose Michael Jordan. Just saying. So yeah, it's just a new era, a new time, and it's just gonna take time. And yeah, like you said, Logan, I think you made a couple great points with the pipelines. Being able to recruiting is these next couple years of recruiting are gonna be massive for Montana State. They're gonna be huge because if you can't get players that want to play for your program and make your program successful, it's gonna be really hard to evolve upon that, right? You have to start somewhere every year. And some places, like with Danny, we saw it. They started from a higher platform because he had the experience. We were starting to win games and things like that. So then after we win the Big Sky Championship, and even right before it, we get Raequon, who was a 4-star. We were about to bring in this Grant kid who was a 4-star after back-to-back Big Sky Championships. We brought in Darius Brown, right? A transfer who was great for us. So yeah, it's just gonna take time. That's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be remiss if we don't touch on a little bit of women's basketball, because same with the men's team, lots of success since we've been here. Kind of fell short this year in Big Sky play, but Darian White, leading guard, accolades all over the place here at Montana State. Commits to Nebraska, so just want to give a shout out to her. That's big, going from the Big Sky to Nebraska, the Big Ten. Like that's a big deal. And then we haven't heard yet, I believe, on Cola Bad Bear. Nothing from her yet, but she's also kind of in the portal, it sounds like. But we just did extend our head coach 4 years for the women's team, so hopefully that pipeline and all that recruiting stuff stays intact there. But I think for us, it's been honestly such a pleasure to watch our basketball teams these last 2 years. Like, I think when we look back on it, like 10 years from now, once we've graduated and all that, a lot of the players that we've seen on both teams are going to be up there with some of the best that have come out of Montana State. And it sure has been fun. And I'm hoping that legacy continues, obviously, with the women's, and then this new era here in Bozeman for the men's team.
Yeah, and absolutely. Like, when just looking back at these teams, like it was just such a special era for Montana State basketball. Very rarely do you see these teams where it's like the only team that gets in from your conference is the team that wins the tournament. It's very rare you see these teams go back to back NCAA tournament appearances and then give a 3 seed a run for their money in the Kansas State game. So I think there's nothing but good things I can say about the Danny Sprinkle era. There's nothing but respect I can give about this era of basketball that we had here. And it's just been such a blessing and a pleasure to watch them all play. And yeah, just the best of luck on all their future endeavors. I hope they all have success. And yeah, that's all I can really say.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's all I've got. So, thank you guys for tuning in. Kind of a quickie, just an update on our off season kind of a deal here. I'm sure we'll drop another one once more recruits kind of commit. Now that the coaching staff's in place, we'll kind of give probably a preview into next year, what the team's looking like, who we brought back, the new additions, how it's going to fit, and once we can kind of look at a little more film at what Matt Logie's going to bring in. Offensively and defensively to this team.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's gonna do it for Everything Hurdle Podcast. Follow us on Instagram at HRDL Podcast. We're dropping a bunch of reels over there. Right now we're doing the NBA playoffs pretty heavily, and Logan's doing some like fifth year option and some extended draft coverage over there. So go check all that out. And we have Seth doing some baseball stuff once in a while to keep the baseball part of this channel rocking. So go check us out there. If you want the audio version, head over to Spotify, type in Hurdle Sports, hit the notification bell, give us a follow. If you just want the audio over there, Spotify is the place to be. Speaking of hitting the notification bell, do that over here on our channel. Subscribe, give us a like, all that good jazz, whatever. But yeah, I think that's it. Montana State basketball, a new era. Logan, Bailey, thanks for tuning in, guys. Peace.